Stefan, how are you, brother? How's the hair looking?
I'm
The hair
I'm
looks
fine.
good.
Yeah, great.
When is
Absolutely.
when is the hair uh shaving day? When is the
The
final day?
the cutoff date,
Yeah.
28,
Okay. So you got like
nine, nine,
10
nine more
days.
days.
9 more days. You're
No, no,
counting
no,
counting.
it's not 10.
For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, me and Stefan had a bet earlier at the Arnold Classic, and Stefan lost the bet, and he's been growing his hair. He's been growing his hair out for 3 months. So I have to give you massive respect for sticking to the bet. It's most
I,
guys would.
I I have to. But actually, when we come to the point, didn't we have a bet concerning Quinton and how he will place?
Well, the interesting thing is we had a bet, but we never said what the punishment would be.
Yeah, you're right. Fuck.
We said we had a bet. No, the bet was about Martin. You said Martin would be top two, and I said he
Yeah,
would, and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I said he wouldn't,
yeah,
which
yeah.
I admit fault. Of course, I admit I was wrong, but we never named a punishment, so
Yeah, you're right.
I'm gonna weasel my way out of that one.
Yeah.
Stefan, I wanted to have you on. Ian was gonna come on with us, but he got tied up, so I figured you'd be a good person to get on because your client is in the show, and
Mhm.
I just found out you're there, so
Yeah.
we can get a kind of bird's eye view because obviously me and Ian weren't there, so it's nice to have
Mhm.
somebody that was there at the show. So I'm going to try and do a quick wrap up, but I want to see if you can be as unbiased as possible, even though Martin
Yeah,
is your
totally,
client.
totally. Like always.
So I do want to say before we go on to the other guys, Martin looked phenomenal. Um,
Thank you.
I thought he was bigger and sharper than he was in Detroit.
He was. And the funny thing is, and the beautiful in bodybuilding, it was the same weight.
Really?
Yes.
So you brought him down. Obviously, you brought down the body fat, but I don't think you put on muscle in that time, did you?
No,
It
no.
was just
I just, I
a
just,
peaking
I
issue.
just, yeah, nah. I just took sure that he can really recover, have some great trainings in that period of time,
Hmm.
and just keep the freshness, you know.
Right, right,
And most of the time that helps to getting the next show a little bit better
right.
without changing too much. Just get the people fresh between.
Yeah. So let me ask you, because he peaked for Detroit,
Mhm.
does that mean leading into New York, like the cardio sessions were maybe a lot less, or like how did you keep him fresher between the two shows?
Giving him significantly more food.
Right.
So we went totally right reverse. Went up with the food. We never went that low. Then we went for Detroit
Right, right, right.
because everything was on point.
Yeah.
And I'm quite sensitive to the feedback. So how are you? How was the training? Do you still have a good pump?
Hmm.
How is everything? Because you actually know you are there fat wise.
Right.
Then I stopped chasing the scale or taking too much look on the scale. So feedback of the athlete is in that perspective more important for me
Right.
than actually, for example, if you're when lowest weight would have been, I would say about 235, 236. And when you are 1 week out or 2 weeks out and you are still at 244, I'm not worried because I know that the fat percentage and the condition is there. It's just a little bit more water which is in the
Right.
system because we are having good, intense trainings. And you have to keep that and handle that, then everything will be fine and you will get the athlete fresh to the show.
How much more food was he eating going into New York than?
Actually, carving up was a little bit less
Yeah, I figured that would be
than
because yeah.
than Detroit because he never went that flat. Then he went before Detroit when I had to
Right,
push him more down.
right, right.
It wasn't a big difference. Actually, I saw on a Friday morning that he is on Friday morning actually at that fullness I would like to have him on Saturday morning.
Right.
Still, I knew that I have to give him the carbs because he needed to keep that fullness. But I don't do that often. But I raised a whole meal on that Friday
Sure.
to about 150 gram or to 200 gram carbs less on the Friday compared to Detroit. But the rest was quite the same.
Yeah. So can I ask you, I don't know if you like talking about this, some coaches don't, but
Always. I don't care.
so I want to ask about diuretics. Do you do, some coaches start like with an aldactone or something on a Wednesday, some coaches just start on a Friday with something a little heavier. How do you do your diuretic situation?
Most of the time it's between nothing and a half of a diacide.
Right. I
Just
found that,
one time.
yeah. I find
Just
that worked best for me too. I didn't like the longer duration of like lighter diuretics and that. But when you do that, are you cutting water completely or are you keeping water
never.
in? Never.
Always.
So
Always.
what's the
For me,
water?
the idea of a perfect stage presence is not erasing the water, it's
Right.
shifting the water.
Right.
I want it in the muscle. That's always why I say to my athletes, pump up good, play on the stage, really feel the pressure, use the muscles, use the bloodstream, keep the tension on stage, flex your muscles, be active, because that makes sure that the muscle, the tissue is pressing against the skin, and you have the look that you want to present and to show. If you have no water in the body, you will be maybe very conditioned with super thin skin. But if nothing happens when you hit a pose,
Yeah. So I don't know if
that's
this,
not that what I like, at least.
so I don't know if this is too specific. So stop me wherever I'm
No,
crossing
good.
any lines, but what does the water intake look like leading up to the show? And then when do you start bringing it down?
Actually, I let them drink how they drink. Maybe in the peak week a little bit more, 7, 8 liters,
Yeah.
9, but about it depends a little bit. There are some heavy drinkers.
Yeah.
For me, everything which goes over 8, 9 is really a problem because it flushes out so much electrolytes.
Right.
It's too much stress for the body. Then I would say 3 days out, it's 6 liters. Depends a little bit on the body type. And on how much you are sweating, how much you are moving. But that I
Right.
would say is the up and down ratio.
Right.
2 days out, about 5. 1 day out, about 3.5 to 4. And
Okay.
on show day, depending, 1 to 1.5.
Okay.
Something about that altogether.
This may be, we're getting away from the wrap up a little bit, so I apologize. We'll bring it back. I just have one more question.
Uh-huh.
And this might be a silly question, but I thought when you tapered
Uh-huh.
water like that, it actually made it harder
Uh-huh.
to keep expelling water. I thought like one of the things that you wanted to do was drink more, like let's say you were saying like 8 to 9 liters,
Mhm.
and then bring it down abruptly so that your body flushed more water. So, but you're doing the opposite. You're bringing it down slowly. You're going 6, then 5, then 3. I always thought bringing it down slower like that would lessen the effect of like expelling water.
As I said before, the first very important thing for me is use the water for digestion.
Okay.
If you eat that amount of carbs, you need the amount of water to digest it well, to put not so much pressure on the digestive system. The second thing is you need the water to take the carbohydrate into the cell. We all know that.
Right.
Then, as I said, it depends how much you sweat, how is the humidity in the area you are. And with peppering it down, you really can see, especially with that high amount of carbs, that in the first 2 days, you probably will even lose weight in
Yeah.
carving up.
Yeah.
Because you still flush.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit how I play also with it. So a slight weight loss is okay for me in the first day of carb up. In the second day, when there is just a second day carb up, I want to keep it stable, not dropping it.
Yep.
If there's a third day carb up, it's okay when it's stable in the second and in the third. Most of the time, then I want to have a little bit increase. But usually I don't aim for a weight increase in carb up. I'm quite happy when it keeps quite stable, and that's very nice to see when you see the transition of being normal but in perfect shape,
Right.
to getting more volume with a little bit less water, having the same weight, but the visual presence of the body changed into a more three-dimensional physique.
Right. All right, let's go. I don't want to make this about we'll have to go back to do a different
Mhm.
podcast for X's and O's. Let's go back to the show. So Martin took second by 1 point. You were
Yeah,
sitting there in the
front row,
audience, front row.
nearly. Yeah.
What did you think? Did you think Nick had him beat, or did you feel like Martin should have
I,
beat him?
I, in the finals, I really thought we had it.
Yeah,
Um, it's apples and bananas, and I understand how they judged it. I wouldn't have judged it like that,
right.
but I understand it because when Nick steps on stage before he hits a pose, that's such an incredible amount of muscle.
Yeah.
Holy moly!
Just
That's
standing there, yeah.
people out there when you don't have seen that amount of muscle live, go and get to a show and take a look. That's really incredible. But when he hits it, he doesn't get more.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I know what you mean. Yeah.
He doesn't get more. His condition was good. He wasn't off, but definitely not. His condition was good. But when Martin hit a pose, there was really something happened.
Yeah, but
He was getting fuller. He was getting more grainy. He had more balance. Different body type. Nick has with his back shots, back lat spread, incredible strong pose. We don't have to discuss that. But Martin's side shots turned up to be extremely good. His side chest was phenomenal. His front shots are quite good. So I saw him a little bit. It was close, but in front of Nick, especially in the evening, where Nick's midsection control got a little bit worse.
yeah.
Still, he's a guy with that. I think we all argue that he doesn't have the best midsection. He has incredible abs, but his midsection is big. But he's one of those guys who can control it most of the time in a really, really great manner. I won't take away that from him. But in the evening, he had some problems doing that in the routine. And after Tyler said, it will be it was a 1 point decision in the pre-judging, I said, even if that was a 1 point decision for Nick, now we have it.
Yeah.
But it turned out differently, and for sure I accept it, and I even can understand it. But as I said, muscularity, Nick, stage presence, Nick was incredible, but also Marty's stage presence was incredible, and we just had a more balanced, more grainy, more quality physique on that day. But that's not the only judging criteria, and it's a subjective sport, so it's totally okay.
I think from my perspective, just looking, obviously I'm not there, I'm just looking at photos and video. From my perspective, what you're saying is true. When Martin's, excuse me, when Martin's just standing there, there's not a lot going on. But as soon as he hits a shot, things happen. But I almost think that works against him in a way. Because when he's standing next to Nick and they're just standing there, Nick looks like he's cut from stone. And Martin looks like that when he starts hitting poses, but not while he's just standing there. So I think it almost gives the edge to Nick a little bit. And then the side shots, I think were Nick's, and the back shots were Nick's. The front shots I had Martin. The question I want to ask you is more of a bodybuilding as a whole question. If somebody's front shots are off aesthetically, is that more of a penalty than, let's say they win all 4 of the other poses?
I think that's hard to judge, and that's especially why we have different judges, have a bigger judging panel, and where everybody should have his own subjective meaning. For me, it would be the point to go to the more pleasant physique. I never was, for example, a big Ramy fan, even if he's an incredible bodybuilder. I always preferred people with more sand hour shape and more flowing physique, like I would say Sean Roden, to have an extreme example. But that's individual taste.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we have 7 judges, so we can everybody can get their preferences in. But the bodybuilding criteria, Nick, I believe, did win the show. But what do you think was the main issue between him and Martin? Was it size? Was it condition? Was it what was it? What put Nick over the top?
It's just the muscle size. In my perspective, in every other aspect, we beat him.
Yeah.
So
Um,
especially being live there, it was our condition game. And Tyler already also said that,
yeah.
he said that was just incredible.
What was I saw some people mentioning Tonio could have been second. How did you
Ah,
feel? How did you feel about Tonio
no.
as a whole? You did well. Obviously,
I
we gotta take this with a grain of salt because Martin is your client. But
Yeah, sure, sure.
trying to
All people out there can comment that, as they know me as a quite harsh guy to my athletes,
right,
and being very, very, very objective.
right,
So Tonio brings everything which a great bodybuilder has.
yeah,
Incredible balance, great muscle bellies. But compared to Martin, um, he was. If we have a condition ranking of the top three, we have Martin, we have Nick, we have Tonio.
yeah. I thought, especially from the
So back,
from the back lower half, I felt like he
yeah.
could have used a little bit more.
So he didn't match the condition side of the other two. So that was the first thing. The second thing is he didn't match the size of Martin, and
Yeah,
for sure also not that Nick. So he was beaten on size, he was beaten on condition.
condition. Yeah,
So he's very, very well balanced. That could be his only ace in that game. But still, Martin is balanced as fuck. So
yeah.
no way of beating Tonio or Martin
Right, right.
in that show.
What did you think about? So we'll move on to Stu. How did Stu? I thought Stu looked very big.
Stu was very, very, very big,
Yeah.
and he would have been a threat if he would have been a little bit more conditioned.
Is that the only thing you
Yeah,
thought? Yeah.
yeah. That was the only. It was the combination. Maybe his fat percentage was good, but the pressure was missing. It was nothing really pressing
Yeah.
against the skin, so it was not. You see, fat percentage wise, he was quite well.
Right.
But he has no pressure, no plasticity, so it doesn't look that good that it probably could.
Right. Right.
But his bone structure and everything, there's nothing to argue about, and he was clearly fourth. Clearly,
Yeah. No, I had him in fourth as well. I feel like there's something missing where he could be in that he could have won the show. Like he looked very big. He
it
could use
just needs more popping muscle.
right. 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 Yeah, a little bit more detail as well. But yeah, I agree with you. So
You see it when you're standing next to them pumping up, or
yeah,
when you're sitting front row.
yeah,
I always take a look how much is happening. How do I see the fibers? How do the pressure in the muscle after 2-3 repetitions builds up? And there was nothing building up.
right, right.
So that is a little bit his problem.
I wonder if how do you feel about, and this is obviously not about the show itself, but more about coaching and prep. Stu has been in shape for quite a while. Do you think but I mean, I guess so was Martin. Is that a harder thing for a guy to peak when they're in shape early? No, right?
I don't think so.
I think that's always good.
I prefer that, because I can reverse diet and
Mhm.
get them fresh and healthy.
I feel like the common, maybe more traditional way of thinking is that if you're ready too early, it kind of spoils the peak, but maybe that's just a bro sciencey thing. Okay, moving on to fifth. So before we move on,
Then the surprises starts for me.
yeah, no, I know, and
But
you know what?
I think I can explain it, but the surprises starts now.
So I showed in a previous podcast before the show, I showed some updates of Aaron Wolski, and I was really impressed with the muscularity gains, but and his condition was good on stage too. He looked really good. A couple body parts could come up for him to be moved up. But why was Wolski a surprise for you? Was it a surprise in a good way, or did you think he should have been further back?
I really like Christian. I coached him for 2 seasons when he
Mhm.
got his first top 5 placing in back then in Portugal.
Mhm.
Christian is now with my really good friend Mauro, who is an incredible coach out there, also from Europe. Has some top guys like Andrea Presti, and it was the best Christian I've ever seen. Christian sometimes has a little bit, I would say, mind struggles because he's insecure, but this time he really Mauro managed it to get him totally stable, and his condition was on point.
Yeah.
Still, I think muscularity-wise, there isn't so much progression he would need. He needs more chest volume. He needs a little bit more upper back. His quads are great. The hamstrings are a little bit behind.
Yeah.
But because he, from his bone structure, he has a very nice bone structure. He was totally conditioned. There was no mistake done. He was full. The package was great. Even with that muscle missing in some parts, it was a very positive surprise and totally okay for him getting 5th place.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like he deserved it. I think a lot of people thought, well, let's move right to Quint, because Quint was, I don't want to say a letdown, but a lot of people had Quint, including myself, had Quint. Some people had Quint winning. Some people had Quint second. Some people, at least people had him in the top 4 most of the time. I saw some pictures of Quint 3 days before the show or something like that, and he looked flat. He looked like obviously they'd been flattening him out to carb him up. I think it was 4 or 5 days before the show. I don't remember. When he got on stage in the morning, he looked like he was still that same flat. Like he did not look like that full muscle that he had 3 weeks out in the photos. What did you see from Quint when he first walked out?
Nothing happening.
Yeah.
No pressure in the muscle at all. Take a look. There must also be a connection and problem with how he activates muscle when he hits and most muscular and is doing the crab. Nothing happens in the chest. There's no fiber coming. The chest is still jiggling. You see, he doesn't get any tension in it.
Yeah.
So his problem was for this competitive field, he's too small and he's too soft and he had no pressure. So honestly, I would have had placed him more back.
So you when you say pressure, just so people watching understand, you're talking about fullness, where the pressure from the muscle pushing against the skin.
Yeah.
Do you think, I heard, I didn't get to see pictures from the night show or video from the night show. I heard when he came back at night, he was much fuller. Did you see that at all or no?
Not really.
No, same at night as in the day. Do you think it now? Let me ask you, do you think it's a peak issue? Or do you think it's a?
I think it's a combination, because maybe people find videos or something and take a look how he hits his his most muscular. You know, when you don't know how to hit the muscle the right way or to get pressure in it, from where should the pressure come? Even if carb up or peaking would have been perfect, when you're not able to hit the muscle to get that real deep pressure in it, it's difficult to show the quality, you know. That's how some people just can't hit their glutes in the intensity it would be needed to have striations. They have very low fat, they are full, but they still have no striation in their glutes because they can't hit it in the proper way. And when I take a look how Quinton poses, that could be an issue why he is not displaying the quality he probably has. But I don't know because I can't see it.
The only other person I wanted to discuss was Angel. Angel jumped in from the 212. I think a lot of people had Angel in 5th. Actually, Paul on the podcast.
That was really I would say 5 to 7, 8 was, you could have flip-flopped.
So, in your opinion, sitting there, did you have Aaron in 5th, or did you have where did Angel finish? 6th, or does anybody know?
He was tied. He was same points with Tim. So Tim and he is 7. They both were 7, I think.
So Quinton
both have 44. Quinton was 6, I think.
Quinton was 6.
Yeah.
Okay. Quinton was 6. So
I think I'm quite sure. Don't nail us if it's not right.
Yeah.
I just know that Tim and Angel was tie same points.
What does one last guy? What does Tim Budesheim have to do to come up? Because I think Tim looks great from the front. Is it just a back issue?
Tim has he asked me yesterday, because we also worked together for about 2 or 3 years. Stefan, what would you change? I said it was the best Tim I've seen. It was really, also he brought up his posing, which he was really lacking. But you know, Tim has a little bit the problem that he doesn't have the most pleasant midsection.
Mm-hmm.
So he's quite wide,
Mm-hmm.
and his shoulder structure is not that wide that he can compensate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he needs more back from the rear for sure, but also from the front. And the second thing is, in his front shots, if you have a wide midsection and you don't have as deep abs as Nick Walker has,
Right.
and you take a look at the whole athlete from the front, and I would say 1/4 is the midsection,
Yeah.
and you don't have deep abs, there is an area which looks like muscle-less
I see what you're
from
saying.
the front.
It's washed
And
out.
in the which isn't a quality problem, it's a muscle problem, because he had no water. Everything was peaked totally well. They did a great job, he and his coach. But in the front double, in the front lineup, and in the lat spread, you see an area without muscle. Let's say it quite hard.
Yeah.
So he needs to bring that midsection up in terms of quality, having a better back, and he can win pro shows actually. But as long as that is there, it will be hard for him to get to the top.
Okay. Well, before you go, I just want to ask one thing. So I think people see Martin now as a top 10 Olympian, especially beating Tonio, who was in 8th, and really comparing very well with Nick, who's been as high as 3rd. So what do we change? What are you going to change between now and the Olympia? Like, how much better can we expect Martin to be? Can he put on a lot of size between now and then?
No.
Just
not the time. That would be an illusion. And if you would chase for that and chase the scale, it would be a disastrous result.
Okay.
So I first thing, I tried to get him recovered.
Yeah.
I tried to get him at least 2 months or even 3 months of high quality training to maybe get a little bit more density, to maybe get a little bit more quality. We will work on posing, because still not all poses are perfect. They could be done a little bit better. And that was also something we discussed with the judges. And then let's see. I even think it can be a little bit more conditioned and a little bit better conditioned, and that will be the goal, to get him into the top 5.
Hey, one last question. What was the one pose you want to change?
I'm not overly happy with back lat spread and
that's the
back
one
double.
That's the one I was going to tell you, because the back lat spread, it feels like he's rolling his shoulders too far forward.
Yeah, too much.
And he's rounding out his back, and I'm like, he needs to flatten it out. See, you need but
it's a little bit the mobility problem, because the front delt stuck a little bit in the position. You also see that in the back double, that he can't rotate. He can't shift his chest up as much as he needs to.
I understand. Okay, well, listen, Stefan, I appreciate you coming on quickly. I know you got to get out of your hotel and stuff and get back home. So
all safe.
I'll get this up soon, and thank you very much for taking the time, man. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, have a good one. And we're out.